All right. Hey, welcome back, everybody. I am your host, Pete McKendrick, with my co-host, Nick, and we are back with another great masterclass. And we have a special guest star here today with us, Mr. Ben Tiger, a.k.a. Ben Morrow, a.k.a. the Roof Tiger, and what other names he goes by on Facebook. So welcome, Ben. Ben is driving to his destination here.
I'm going to be in my office here. Yes.
So welcome, Ben.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, excited to have you on, man. I'm glad you could join us today. A really interesting topic here. You know, we to give you guys some background on this, and Nick and we'll run through it here in a second. But you know, we decided we're going to run a little survey, just kind of get a little temperature gauge on the industry itself, and kind of figure out where everybody stands. And you know, we figured we'd present you the numbers, right? And we got Ben here to give us some really cool, you know, industry insight from an actual roofer, you know, an everyday roofer. So excited to have all of everybody together here to kind of run through this.
Super pumped for this. This is going to be great. Ben, thanks for joining. You know, when we think marketing and roofing, we think Ben Tiger. But honestly, when we like joking aside, like when you look at what you've done, going back to one of those first podcasts you did with Pete on the Roofr Report back then and everything, talking about how to build that stuff up, Pete, he knows how to market. He knows how to stand out from the crowd, and tying him into this is a great addition to it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Ben actually, you know, speak in person a couple of times, and he just does a great job of, you know, kind of explaining his path to how he's got to where he is, and what he's done from a marketing and branding standpoint. And you know, so I think glad to have him on here today. I think, Ben, your insights are going to be great. You know, as far as talking about some of these numbers and the way, you know, people are leveraging some of the technology that we're seeing in the industry.
Can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I heard your first intro, Pete. You said something like, I'm super handsome. And it's something along those lines. I really appreciate the intro.
It was exactly that, yeah.
Yeah, just to give like a brief 30-second about myself, guys. I come from a marketing background. That's what my degree was in college. I studied marketing and communication. And so I really brought my just my education in that sector to the roofing space, which I knew very little about. But marketing principles are very broad-based. And so I hope to give you a couple things today you could use instantly, like today or tomorrow in your roofing business, that will help you guys get more customers, more leads, and ultimately more success.
Awesome, man. Do we have Nick, do we have some housekeeping slides to go through, or?
Yeah, let's dive into it. So The host here is normally you got the host with the most, which is Pete McKendrick there, Process Pete. You can reach him if you have any questions or anything additional there at pete@roofr.com. Then you have me, the host with the least. Doesn't rhyme, so it's just not as good. Damn it. But you can reach me for any complaints about my rhyme there at nic@roofr.com. We make it nice and easy there. So, but keep in mind, stick around the whole time. We are giving away some of the masterclass socks again today. And we do have if you want to learn more about the Roofr account and how to use it in your specific business needs, our implementation team is free. Unlike a lot of the other tools out there, we want to make sure that you're successful with the tool if you're actually using it. And what better way than not charging you to get everything set up there. You can check out the Roofr Academy and our education sessions with that as well. And last week we gave away a drone, and that was awesome. This week we got some really cool shoes that I wish I had. But do not. So follow us on Facebook and Instagram, like and comment on our shoe giveaway post, and we're giving away 2 pairs. And I was told very explicitly that none of them go to me. So those are all up for you guys.
Yeah, and would go great with some limited edition socks there, wouldn't they, Nick?
Be pretty sweet combo. I do have a wedding coming up very soon, and might throw on those socks. So we'll see if I'm still married after the wedding with those socks on, but it will be definitely fun to try this out. So, and then lastly, it's always asked, this is always recorded. So we put this on roofr.com/masterclass. It's on our YouTube channel as well. And in the chat, we have the great and powerful Jennifer. So if you could have any feedback or anything, email Jennifer@roofr.com, and there'll be a survey after. Let us know how we're doing, how things are going, and we're looking forward to it. So why don't we get into it, Pete?
Yeah. I mean, let's dive into this, into the numbers a bit here. So we ran a little survey, or had a survey run, right? We didn't specifically run it, but we had a survey done. Just kind of gauge, where the industry's at. Where's the industry at in the use of technology? Where's the industry at in their thoughts on it? And what are they looking for? What are they after? I think we'll have some numbers here. There is a copy of this report available in the handout section if you guys want to download it and go through the actual industry report that we put together. If you do get the chance to jump on there and read through it, it is got some fantastic information. Gives you some really good insights into what everybody's doing as far as the industry goes. Kind of a litmus test of where everybody's at. So I guess let's dive into it, Nick, and let's see what we got here.
Yeah. So the data sources are based on proprietary market research commissioned by us, as Pete said, by My Clear Opinion Insights Hub. So we did this back in January, and so it includes data sets and responses and market analysis specific to American roofing. So sorry for the Canadians. Cameron, go Leafs go, not go Oilers. But this data is not publicly available, so we wanted to create a report so we can share it with everyone there. So.
Yeah, and we jumped on it with a number of different types of roofers, right? I think they tried to capture a nice little subset of roofers, that really kind of explained the industry as a whole. So you'll see here, the median annual revenue of the ones that we were interviewed were $5 million, average years in business 15, average age of the actual owner 49, and some of the locations you see there, California, Georgia, Florida, some of the bigger markets. So tried to talk to a wide range of decision makers, owners all over the U.S. to really get a clear picture of what the industry as a whole looks like.
It's awesome. Ben's in the tiger den. Look at that.
Yeah, look at that.
Made it.
Made it safe and sound. One of the quotes here that I really liked, and I know that we really liked throughout this process, is technology frees us from repetitive tasks so we can focus on the work that truly matters. That's huge. And like when I'm showing roofers, Roofr.com through demos and stuff like that, that's what I always start talking about, is that automation thing. Because there's repeatable tasks that you do every day that is just kind of monotonous. And when I was roofing, it was just going through the steps, doing the normal things, printing off the work order, marking it up and stuff like that. If you can automate a lot of that stuff, you save a bunch of time. And like the cheesy line is, what are you going to do with all that time? Like, how are you going to put it back in your business? But it's cheesy, but it's true. Like with that stuff, you could be working more on your business, building out more things, thinking about marketing, thinking about expanding, thinking about Gutter Lion, for example. I'm sure Ben was able to come up with these amazing ideas like Solar Panther and Gutter Lion because he freed himself up from the monotonous tasks that he does day to day. So that's a big part of building out this process, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the technology, obviously, like we always say, it gives you back time, but time is money, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, time equates to dollar signs, whether that it means more sales, whether that means, streamlining the process so that, your costs are down, whatever it may be, that time can equate to dollar signs ultimately at the bottom line. And that's a huge, a huge advantage. Like it's a huge way kind of to boost profits and definitely help your company along the way and help your employees to be more streamlined in their operations. So, it's definitely a great quote here for sure.
So we had to add this thing. We have
Where you at, man?
We have Process Pete, and if you guys heard the podcast I did with Ben on the Tiger Den a couple months ago, Project Pat is Pete's cousin. We didn't know that, but it is. You can see the similarities here. He has a hat on, so you can't see the hair similarities, but just had to add that in there.
Process Pete and Project Pat. I think we're going to collaborate on an album later.
It's a dynamic duo that we didn't know we needed, but we did.
Yeah.
Let's dive into the spend, Pete, and how people know to spend what they're doing.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one, right? Like when you start to get into what are people spending on technology, and Ben, before we even dive into the numbers, I'm going to talk to you really quick about this. Like, how do you guys handle technology spend? Do you set aside a budget for it? Is it just what it is what it is? How are you guys planning on what you need to spend on technology over the course of the year?
Can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, good. I'm so sorry, first of all, just for I, like you guys who are listening, run a roofing company, sometimes very, you don't know where you're going to be day to day at times. So as they alluded to, our technology spend, we try to spend as little as possible if more efficient products that solve problems. So that's what Roofr really solved for us is we don't really want to give it to sales reps to measure roofs and be inconsistent. So that's when we found Roofr, started using their measurement tools. Onto their CRM, it's far less expensive than most of the offers out in the industry. And so to answer your question directly, like roofing companies, especially if you're under 1 million or between 1 and 2 million, you don't want to be spending $100,000, $200,000 in technology. It's just not advisable. Use that money to really drive your revenue, which is most like marketing spend or profits or hiring other people to take on some of those repetitive tasks as well. So to answer your question directly, like as little as possible, because technology is so good now that we can find products that fit those solutions for cheaper.
Yeah, and I think that's an important factor, right? Back in, let's say, 5-6 years ago, in order to accomplish the same thing, I would have probably needed 5 or 6 pieces of software, right? So I would have been spending significantly more than I am now because the platforms are so dialed and they're offering so many more features that I can reduce my spend considerably and still get the same amount of bang for my buck, more or less, right? I'm still getting the same feature set. What really surprised me here in these numbers was you see right there at the top some highlights. 56% of roofing companies saying they spend between $5,000 and $50,000 a year on technology, right? Like that's a pretty substantial number, for half of the industry to be spending that much money on tech.
And you mentioned that too, like the fact that like back in the day, you have these fragmented systems with a bunch of single source solutions. It's true because now you can kind of amalgamate a lot of them. Nice plug to roofr.com.
Wow.
But
that was an SAT word too.
Ooh.
Well, I'm going to ask ChatGPT what that means.
I'm getting there, guys. I'm getting there. The more I do these masterclasses, the smarter I become.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Less about banging on shingles. It's more about this. So, but you actually see that still today. Like today yesterday I talked to a contractor who has QuickBooks. He has a instant estimator. He has a proposal tool. He has a CRM, and he's got a bunch of other stuff kind of pieced together. And I asked him, like, what are you spending with all of this? And because our price is very, very cheap, but he was spending around $15,000 a month, and he wasn't a big company. He was like a mid-sized company, probably doing around $6-7 million in revenue a year. And I was like, that's a huge portion of that. Like, how much money do you allocate to marketing? I don't have a lot. So his instant estimator is not working that well. Well, it's not the instant estimator tool's fault. It's because you're wasting all your money on everything here and not being able to allocate the money elsewhere. So he's focusing on door knocking. He's focusing on organic routes, which is great to do, but that's still a big problem. And you can see it here. That 56% is a huge number there.
Yeah, and I think those are real dollars, right?
Yeah.
We talk about how hard roofers and how much you have to save to get through the winter time and keep employees retained. As you guys know, if you've been in the roofing space and you're in a cold climate, you essentially lose money for 3 out of 12 of the months. And so you've got to really get your acorns in those first 9 to make sure you're saving through the wintertime and not failing. When I first started, guys, I almost failed in that first winter because I didn't realize how much I'd spent, how much I would spend in that downtime. And when you don't have cash flow, big problems come up. And so the less you can spend on this technology, the better, especially if it's as efficient as the other products in the market.
Well, and I think one thing to speak to here, Ben, is like how easy as a roofer is it to fall prey to loading up on software technology here? Like, on buying too many subscriptions, just seeing things and being like, hey, let's try that, and then next thing you know, you're 2 years down the road and you're still paying for something that potentially your team's not even using. I mean, we see it a lot. And so how easy is it for that to happen, in the business, obviously when you get busy and stuff?
Easy. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why. When you go to roofing conferences, if anybody in this chat has seen W's in the chat, if you've been to a roofing conference, but if you've been to it, you go to these tables sometimes and you'll see people be like, you need this product for your business to do X, Y, and Z. And so it's not their fault that they're selling their products, but you almost buy into, well, other roofers are doing it, therefore I must. And that's just not true. There are other options in the market that cost less, that are more effective. And Roofr is a great example of that, it just saves you a ton of money that you don't have to spend on a product that's not better, right? So don't fall prey to what people are doing. Start to educate yourself on what other options are there. And I think that's one of the reasons why this masterclass will be successful, is people can see the real difference of Roofr versus everyone else.
That's a huge thing too, Pete. Like back when we first started releasing all of our tools and stuff like that, I would talk, and this is just a couple of years ago when we released proposals and everything else, I would talk to contractors that were just starting out and they had no tech stack. And nowadays, like I would say especially the last 3 months, kind of going maybe back into the buying season in October and stuff like that, you talk to roofers that are just starting their company. And a lot of these guys and girls are coming from a bigger company that they were at before. So they're familiar with the tools. They understand the importance of tech. So it's like that buying mindset has changed. And that startup is they're like, I need these tools to be successful. But where I see a lot of people fall prey is in that 56% mark, is they worked at these big companies and they had a fragmented kind of Frankenstein situation. And they're like, I need every one of those tools to be successful. So you're going in, like you said, not having a lot of acorns stored away, Ben, and you're going in, you're buying all these things that you see there at the shows that you see on Instagram, you see in the Facebook groups and stuff like that. And now you have a bloated tech stack with a huge amount of overhead, and you're just trying to get to that next paycheck. That's difficult to do. So kind of taking that process and understanding and looking around is important. But I mentioned on your podcast, Ben, at Roofr, because we did it live at IRE, at Roofr, we try to do anything in our power to convince you not to buy our product at the show. I don't care how much you like it. I'm saying, let's take a beat. Let's meet when you get home. Simply because those shiny lights and stuff like that is very easy to make a decision on that, because you're fired up, you're excited, you're around a bunch of like-minded individuals, and you're ready to go. Take a beat when you're at a show. Set the appointments for when you get back home and take a look at it, so you don't fall prey to that $5,000 to $50,000 when you don't have that bankroll to run it.
Yeah, and I think a big point here is, especially if you're a new roofer, is to have a process and then find pieces of software that fit your process, that fill opportunities, that help you streamline that process, instead of allowing the software to build the process for you.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think that's what we see a lot of. We see a lot of people who have essentially bought tools and then build a process around the tool. So now they're kind of stuck with it, right? Because they've incorporated it so much that, you know, they don't have the ability to just say, okay, this tool's not right for us. It doesn't really fit our system. You know, we can cut it loose. And I think that's a common mistake that I see, is like we buy the tools first. You know, like Nick said, we're seeing more and more roofers that are getting on technology from day one, but we're buying the tools and then trying to build the process around them instead of the opposite way around.
I would expect nothing less of that amazing advice from anyone else than Process Pete. Like the Process Pete is nailed in there. It's in your name. It's like you're born.
I had to come up with some kind of process nugget there.
You can't teach that. You can't teach that. So.
So let's talk about this one, right? Current technology usage, right? So what are people using from technology standpoint? So surprised honestly by the first one, but not so surprised by the other ones. Payments and invoicing, 82% of people using something now to process payments. I think that's something that has really exploded, I would say. Ben, maybe you could speak to that in the last couple of years, right? I know up until a couple of years ago, it was pretty common to just go manually collect checks, right?
Yeah, QuickBooks is the obvious answer here because it's so huge by Intuit, and that's what I would say the pervasive use of technology for that is QuickBooks. But then, the other ones, like you were mentioning earlier, you have to kind of stack these technologies and use a bunch of different ones, and that's why I believe that Roofr is the future, because you guys are doing all this in-house and having all of these things in one platform. Sorry if I'm sounding salesy here, but I just believe that you guys are building a product worthwhile, and the payments and invoicing obviously is going to go along with it. QuickBooks will probably never die, let's be honest. And for taxes and stuff, you're always going to need something specific to finances. But the other things listed, I believe that Roofr can find a solution for.
Yeah, the QuickBooks thing, you hear it on every single call. If it's not QuickBooks, it's Xero. If it's not Xero, it's Wave. But like QuickBooks is the big one there. I think it's important. There's a lot of people that we talk to that are still doing that check, and you're wasting time driving around and all that stuff too, but it's easy. But a big thing is, and a lot of people need to understand, I'm victim to this and I'm doing it right now. I try to pay everything I can on my credit card because I have a good card with good points, and I pay it off right away and then just keep on moving through it. And when you're looking at big purchases and a lot of these good credit cards that are out there now, you can get almost like a 1-to-1 or 1.5 to 1 point ratio to dollar. So having payments and invoicing part of your tool stack, shameless plug to Roofr Payments, 2.8% on credit card, 0.5% on ACH. But you having something like that to pass along to that customer to allow them to pay through that, number one, separates yourself from the competition. But number two, allows them to get something back for what they're doing. They don't want to do the roof. It's not a sexy purchase. We've talked about it before. It's just something over their house and they're not really thinking about it. But if you can give them something back for that, say, hey, do you got a good points card on there? We can process your credit card through that. It's going to really open up that door. So it's a big option that I'm seeing more and more feedback on it with a lot of other customers.
Yeah, and I think the one big stat here that stands out, and our team kind of noted it there at the top, is that 75% of roofers say that they're asking for some type of feedback or review or a referral, but you see only 35% of them have a formalized platform to manage it, right? So if you don't necessarily have a process built around that, I think we'll see later. I'm not sure if the slide is in here, but there's a slide that actually shows how some people say, I think the majority of roofers say, yeah, we sometimes ask for them, right? And so this is a huge opportunity for you, because we'll see later on, referrals are still the number one source of leads for the roofing contractor. So why not have a formalized process that helps you get those referrals? Right. And you see here, only 35% of the people who answered this say that they have something in place that helps them manage their reviews, their referrals, and their feedback.
That's a big part there. The fact that you can build that into the automation, going back to that first slide, stopping having to do those repeatable tasks day to day and using technology to do that, that's a huge thing. Just have that automation kick out every time that you move something in a job completed. Allows you to capture a lot. We have John Tucker as one of our former roofers of the month. He said within a 1 week period, he got 4 reviews from old leads by just putting that automation in and moving them to job completed, because it just prompts them and it's easy to do, right? So you can open that up very nicely. Diving into agent tech versus technology spend, Gen X is all in on tech, and it's paying off, which is good. I will second that it's pretty obvious that us millennials here are pretty all in on tech as well. But as you can see here, the heat pack map with tech profit impact by generation, you can see this the amount of that is significantly impacted by all these different options there. So among roofing pros, Gen X is the most bullish on technology, seeing it as a major driver of growth. So you can see that bottom graph there, and millennials are right behind them. And baby boomers, they seem a little bit more reserved, but acknowledge that tech has its benefits. You talk to them all the time. They're like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's not a bad mindset to have. But I always argue, I go, well, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm updating it. So you got that wheel that's working fine with wood spokes. Let's update it to steel rims. And that's what Project Pat would want anyways. So you can have that all lined in there and just be able to roll across it a lot easier. So no matter what your age group, there's like a near universal agreement that tech has a real impact on the bottom line. And this data really, really shows it.
Yeah. And I think the one thing, and maybe you can speak a little bit to this, Ben, is that to me, what I saw when I saw this graph is it's a direct indicator of what you're dealing with from a customer base now too. Mm-hmm. right? Like your customer base, your homeowner nowadays is a millennial person, right? And you look at what the millennials are doing, they're embracing tech, right? The tech is a huge part of their everyday life. And so when you're selling, utilizing tech, leveraging tech, making it a very streamlined process is going to give you a huge advantage because that's what your customer is now looking for, right? Ben, what are you guys seeing out there nowadays with customers in comparison to, say, even a couple of years ago when you guys started the company?
Yeah, I'd say it's getting more and more common to have technology and bids that are done same day. We still run into contractors that don't give bids for a week because they have to measure the roof, go back, talk to their team. Like it's a very arduous and difficult process. So I just say with the Amazon age of things where people can purchase something with one click, why are we taking a week or two to price something out? And so the faster, this is a common thing that I say, it's speed to lead. And if you can get there fast and give a price, you have a far higher chance to close before those other contractors get in the door. Technology allows you to do that with measurements, with proposals, with making sure to tracking your numbers, tracking your margins. I would imagine that out of the people in this room, that not everybody knows their exact numbers of profitability per job. It's very common to just kind of go in blind and think you know. And then come November, December time, you look back and say, okay, what jobs were the most profitable? W's in the chat if you've ever done that. But the faster you can get information, the faster you can change and update your stuff so you can make more money ultimately and stop wasting money on small jobs that don't make profit. So that's my suggestion is you leverage technology to go faster to customer and then track your data so you can make changes.
That's huge.
It makes a lot of sense how these these graphs are shaping up.
So I saw this, and I'm going to give a plug to the person I saw this from, but I'll talk about what I knew before I saw this quote online. So the average first-time home buyer nowadays is 36 years old. That's across Canada and US. That's exactly my age. And what we have grown up with is we grew up pre-technology and during technology. So we got like that weird in-between spot, which makes us all very socially awkward. But what it really does is it opens up the door to what we want is experience. So when you're selling to people and you're talking about the Amazon and everything else, Mike Goldenstein is who I'm going to credit this quote to, where I saw him write it online. I don't know where he got it from, but it was a good quote. Buyers today are buying things more often based on experience, and they are spending more dollars to get that experience. And they know, unlike the baby boomers of the past, that good work is not cheap. And they want to be kind of credited for their work. So they expect the same thing back to them. So they want that experience. So being able to implement technology in your flow, whether it's through CRM, whether it's through your proposals, whether it's through an instant estimator, really takes you up to that next level. And you will close bigger jobs. You will get paid for your work and not have to scrape around for the bottom there and fight with the fly-by-nighters on there, and really own your pricing. So it's a really important thing to kind of open up there and understand that technology is your friend, and it's actually going to make you more money while costing you less throughout that process.
Yeah. And I think one thing that I want to touch on too, and Ben, you made me think of it when you said, make sure you know your numbers and how profitable you are, is that we often see people that struggle to really understand all of the costs associated with a job, right? They think costs, material costs, labor, and that's it, right? And there's so many other overhead factors that are involved, like, did you drive a truck out there to do an inspection? There's a cost, right? Like there's a cost to all this stuff. And I think a lot of times we overlook a lot of those operating costs, or we're not absorbing them correctly, into the jobs. And therefore they're affecting how profitable these jobs are in the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Adding in your overhead is super important. So, Pete, CRM features used versus most loved.
This is an interesting one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. What does it say? Roofers know what matters most in a CRM when it comes to value user points. The big three: job tracking, project management, proposal and estimate generation, invoicing and billing. It takes me back to one of the first podcasts I did with Latif, right? Latif said, he's talking about being a brand new roofer. And he said, you don't have to invest in a ton of software right off the bat, right? Like you have very little money, you have very little customers coming in. You can manage that pretty easily. But the one thing that you should invest your money in from day one is a proposal tool, so that you stand out and you have you're professional looking from day one, even if you're a one-man show. So I found it very interesting that was one of the top ones here as well, for most loved, right? Because I think it speaks highly to the fact that is a very, very crucial piece. And it's one that you can implement, pretty cost effectively from day one, and be able to really stand out from your local market right away without having to have a bunch of sophisticated tools.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a big one there. I talk to customers all the time that they're like, "Hey, I'm just starting out." I'm like, "What's your competition like in your market? Who are the big guys? And what do you know about them? And how are you going to get above the riffraff at the bottom, like the fly-by-nighters and everybody else?" I'll tell you one way not to get ahead is having your quote look exactly like those fly-by-nighters, because they're going to be lower in price than you because they don't have overhead. They don't care about overhead. They will be cutting corners. So own your price and leave value behind. And that's what you can do with a good proposal software. And that, like, if you're doing that from the beginning, you can leapfrog a lot right off the bat and win jobs off of bigger people. And that way you can kind of implement, that communication aspect, that presentation access to it, and open up that door to more sophisticated customers that are willing to, going back to the last point, pay more for experience. And that's like not even if you're just a new company coming in. Prime example is, and I was super pumped to see this, my dad won a $100,000 new work job from a builder that always used the same guy. And the reason he won it was because of I read the email, was because of the detail and the accuracy and the transparency of your estimate. He wasn't the most expensive. He by far wasn't the cheapest. And he won over that person and probably their future work because of the ability to show them what's going on, what we're doing with, line item them out, show the quantities, and show a little bit of description of what the current work is and everything else. He included the measurement report from the blueprints that he drew out in Roofr as well. And that was what won it for him, was being able to show, like, here's my work, here's what I'm going to be doing for you, here's how much roof you have based on the numbers, so pull that in. So having that aspect's huge, and then being able to track everything throughout that process and project manage is like a nice cherry on top.
Does anybody know what the trust factor of roofing companies is by chance? I know these guys have probably heard me speak about this, but if somebody's listening out there who knows the percentage, go ahead and type it in the chat. The distrust percentage of roofing companies is 80%. So that means the general public does not trust 80% of roofing companies, or has an 80% distrust mark. And that's because it's very difficult work. You think of people drinking on jobs, not having insurance. You've all heard people ripping somebody off. And roofing is such a high ticket item that people would want to rip off a $20,000 job versus a sink, not being fixed for $200. Right? We live in a very high dollar per job cost. So my point is by standing out with customers from that 80% and having professional proposals that are branded to your business, that's going to help you stand out from those roofers who don't put enough time in and ultimately don't win jobs as much as you do.
That's a big.
Yeah. Now there is one thing here that I want to get your take on, Ben, and that's analytics and reporting, and only 20% of people saying that it was a valuable feature for them inside of their CRM. Because I know I'm a numbers guy. I think you guys do a pretty good job of keeping track of your data and, and being able to utilize it to modify and tweak your process. So what are your thoughts on that only 21% are saying that that's valuable?
I would say that probably most roofing companies are less than $1 million. I would say most, or maybe less than 2 million. It's just by law of averages. And so you don't have that many jobs to take care of. And they're probably self-proprietary, like individuals who run their business and are also salespeople and also run jobs. They have multiple different positions. And so they probably don't know the benefit of tracking your numbers down to each penny, or like care as much, because they're just like, they make good money. It's enough for them. So I'll just move on. The minute that I started hiring people who knew finances and could tell me specific data was the minute my business changed, because I had somebody backing me up on those opinions and actually coaching me through, this is the most valuable spend for your dollar. I'm a creative guy, if you can't tell. I love freaking anything creative. I'm a left brain or right brain guy, whatever that one is. It's very creative for me not to know which one. I would go to my CFO and be like, hey, like, we could do this. We could do that. We could do X, Y, and Z. And he's like, yeah, we could do that. He's like, or we could just reinvest into what's making us a lot of money right now, which is just more roof jobs and more solar jobs, right? So like, I'm an idea guy. I'm like, what if we got into, floor coatings or into this business? And he's like, sure, but that average ticket's lower. He would back it up by numbers. So having the numbers to say, we make X amount of dollars on each roofing job, therefore just concentrate and focus your scattered brain into doing what's most cost-effective and profitable.
Yeah. If you guys didn't get a chance to see the masterclass we did, Nick, the last masterclass was with Amanda? Two masterclasses ago. I lose track, right? So 2 masterclasses ago, we did one with Amanda from Maven, and it was literally about her numbers, specifically, mostly geared around the instant estimator, but just how well she understands her numbers and how effectively she's able to manipulate the business based on those numbers really speaks to how, like you said, like once you really understand the data and you can really see how it's affecting the bottom line, you can make much more educated decisions about the path of the business.
And roofing materials, if anybody's in here that manages the materials or goes to jobs and has to pick up materials after a job is over or whatever the case, like so much money is lost in materials that you bought an original cost for materials, then you have to go back and buy $500 more of additional supplies to finish the job. That's stuff that's just not tracked at times, or you're carrying materials from one job into the next and it's not tracked. That's money saved. And so if you don't know these things, and you get my first or second year, I got my bill from ABC in total, and it was like 40% of my job's money was going towards materials. I was like, there's something way off here that we're not tracking. It's because we were buying additional materials and throwing away other stuff. We were doing a bunch of goofy stuff. So it dialed us into like project managers. You have to pick up materials. You have to return to ABC. You have to do these things to make sure make us profitable. And then the numbers came down, got more profitable. But even 5% on materials, guys, think $5 for every 100 is a lot of money when you're buying $500,000 or $1 million in materials. So those things can all add up to vacations for your family and more investment into more employees, right?
It's huge difference. And that's what, like, my dad was so crazy growing up that I got that drilled into my head. When we were doing cutoffs, if we were doing cutoffs on a hip, he would lose his mind if there was a factory edge on the other side and we didn't use it on the other hip. So he's like, don't waste that shingle. Just use it on the other side. His waste was like damn near zero on a hip roof. Because we would just cut that one side, go to the other side of the hip and Dutch it in, and it would just fit in. And it made a difference. And you can see like how that can open up those returns. Not only the returns and stuff like that are going to get them more material. How much time is that taking? How much gas, all that stuff there? Being able to record it in a CRM through your material takeoffs, getting accurate measurements and all that stuff, but also any change orders and stuff like that is going to make you more profitable throughout that flow as well.
Yeah, I remember working with a contractor who they hired a guy to come in, a younger guy, savvy guy. And kind of like Ben said, like you hire a guy that kind of understands the numbers, and he started looking at their material orders and what they were ordering for roofs and figured out that they were essentially ordering flashing and shingles for like the same parts of the roof and like over ordering on every single job. And it worked out to be, I think he said somewhere around like $70,000 in extra materials that they were just eating over the course of a year. Just in something simple, just looking at, they were just going off of a measurement report and not making any adjustments and just ordering and they go up with all this surplus material. So knowing your numbers and understanding the process, can really, really affect the bottom line. Like Ben said, $5 on every 100, over the course of the year, that's going to add up very, very quickly.
Yeah.
All right. So roofer usage versus time saved, right? So roofer users winning back their time. So what do we got here, Nick?
Yeah, when you're looking at everything here, roofer users are going to kind of win back their times big time here. But most roofing businesses are saying that they save around 5 to 10 hours per week, with many saving 10 over but the average, you're looking at 8 hours back in a single week. So let's take the over side of that there too. Because if you're looking at 10 hours a week that you're saving on that, and that breaking down to a month, that's 40 hours a month. That's an extra day that you got back into your system to be able to do stuff to grow your company. If you make that into the whole year, that's 20 full days that you're saving. That's almost a month's worth of time that you're getting back with you. And that's just 5 to 10 hours. You can see people are saving over 10 hours. So that's why I'm so big on these automations and setting up those successes and making things like building a proposal that much quicker, because you just have to click it a couple times. Those things make a big difference. Ben, you threw a couple of the skits that you did, professional commercials. I valued it for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's because I was laughing at them because they were so funny too. But you were like I'm thinking about the guy who was on the roof using the measuring tape, using Pythagorean theorem and Newton's law. Like, that's true. Like, all these people are like, yeah, but that's how I do things. It's like, cool. What's your time worth? Like, let's not think about an hourly amount, but like, what do you do with that time? Would you rather do other stuff? Like, I'd much rather teach something to someone or spend time with my nephew or whatever than doing stuff that I have to do over and over again. And also, what gets boring in your life is this shit that you have to do over and over and over again. It's you want to keep it fresh. So why don't you get that boring stuff out of the way and automate that and save 5 to 10 hours a week? It makes such a big difference.
And to time with professionalism and branding and standing out from the competition, guys, what's more powerful, having a hand-drawn roof on a piece of paper or showing up with a proposal ready and then showing it to the customer and saying, this is what I'm quoting for. This is a sketch of your house done professionally by this company called Roofr. And they're like, oh, wow. Most people have never seen something like this at their home. So I'm like, hey, this is what it looks like. Does this look like it's right to you? Yeah, this looks like my house. Perfect. This is what we quote off of, and this is why it's accurate. And if my price is different from other people, maybe it's because I have accurate measurements and they maybe not. And so you can speak to that professionalism and, again, put yourself above the competition in a faster, more time efficient way.
There we are. This is crazy here. 0% of all the people surveyed is no time saved. So that's crazy.
Yeah. And I think back to, an interview I did with Hannah from Smith Rock, and she said it very profoundly. She said, coming over to Roofr has saved us hours in the day and days in a week, which equates to weeks over the years. And she said, and when I think of that in the lifetime of my business, she said, you could potentially be saving me years of my life. Right. And she said, and what could I potentially do with that, over the lifetime of our business? And so, when you think about it like that, it's pretty profound to think like you could potentially save years, off of it by just implementing some software and streamlining that process through it, So love that quote from her. And it really stuck with me as like the main thing coming out of that conversation with her, of how much the time saved is impacting them, not only as a business, but also their personal life. And, it's her and her husband running that company and how much time they're getting back,
100%.
I'm looking into the tool usage and profitability, Pete.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this is, something that we talk about quite often, right? Obviously, if you're leaning out the process and you're streamlining the process and you're more organized, it almost by default, I mean, unless you're just a train wreck, like almost by default, you're going to make more money, right? Like you're going to have more time, you're going to be more efficient. Your chances of being more profitable because now you understand your numbers, all these things that we've talked about on these previous slides kind of all come together as a perfect storm to push your profitability up, right? So, and don't get me wrong, I have seen train wrecks where the software has not helped, but if it's implemented properly, it can make a huge difference to your bottom line for sure.
And you can see that there just in the data, right? Lead capture tools like Instant Estimator is 52.2, said it made a big impact there. Measurement softwares like Roofr, you got 47.2, saw strong results, and customer review tools came in close behind at 45.3. The big thing here that I really think is important when you're looking at like the project management, this entire flow, CRM software, automations and stuff like that, to me is communication, because it all kind of ties in. So you have that communication piece at the front with that lead capture tool. You have that measurement that's educating them on exactly the size of the roof down to the nearest inch. The proposals are going to be educational and transparency. And you got automations going along, keeping that person up to date. When you look at reviews online, I challenge people here to just go look at any roofing company's reviews and see if it just says, all they say is the roof looked nice. They installed it professionally. 9 times out of 10, you're going to see they were really easy to deal with. They had great communication and all that stuff there. That's the secret sauce that so many people miss. And when you're running a big roofing company, and even if you're a mid-sized roofing company or small to medium-sized businesses, like Ben said when he came in here, you got so much stuff going on in your day, you can't possibly be there and communicate with that customer every part of the way. So tool usage and profitability go hand in hand, because this is going to lead to reviews, which Pete's always said, your lowest cost per acquisition, your highest converting leads are referrals. So it ties everything together in one spot for you. And that's the importance of using tools like this, is that communication piece. That's the underlying thing around all this here.
Yeah, we have to understand what kind of business we're in here, guys. The roofing business is a very interesting niche in the industry of business, because the labor pool is essentially most of the time already available to you. So the labor pool in your area most likely is like mine, where you have groups of roofers who travel together. They'll work for you if you have jobs. That's how most of the industry works on. There's a small minority who hires in-house roofing staff. I would assume very large companies or very small companies. It's kind of a polarization. But I would say 80+% of people use subcontracted Hispanic labor crews to do the roofing. If I had a bunch of guys making pizza out in the ether that I could hire at any time, and they were all fairly good at making pizza, the real difference maker is your brand, is how fast you communicate, how efficient you are with your pricing, and how good you are at making sure your timelines are good, your project management essentially, and then making sure to capture reviews so you can generate more of those same situations. So your actual business in the roofing industry is not roofing in a lot of ways. It's marketing, sales, project management, and money collection. The actual labor is most likely, well, it's recruiting of those same people, right? But the labor crews are already out there in the ether. You have to find them. But the main blocks of a roofing business are not roofing, which is bizarre, because every other business, if you're a tremendous carpenter, carpenters don't exist in mass like roofers do. So you have to go find those people that work on wood. This is a very specific niche in the American, way of business. And you have to understand what your job is, which is do those 4 things efficiently.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was on Behind the Tool Belt one time, and Chris Baker was on there. He works on Behind the Tool Belt and for TC Backer, and he said something very similar. He's like, if you think about it, in reality, we're all very similar in the fact that we're all kind of installing the same way. We're all pretty much installing the same product. So really, what is the differentiator for you? Like you said, it's those things, right? It's your brand. It's how efficient you are. It's how quick you are, right? Those are the things that are going to set you apart from the competition. You're not going to out-roof someone else. Like it's just not a thing that's going to happen, right? Like it's just not a deciding factor for a customer on whether they work with you or not, right? Whether your guys can put shingles on faster is not going to make me pick you as the roofer, right? So, so it's interesting, and I think that one of the things that like I noticed about this too is that with this graph specifically is more and more I'm talking to roofers who are concentrating on staying lean, right? And keeping the business lean as it scales. Like they're doing everything they can to scale the business without scaling the workforce and scaling the responsibilities of people. And so they're really leveraging the tools to maximize the profitability, right? And so, so it's interesting. This graph is very interesting because I think it plays right into that,
Yeah, you got the up and to the right there. That's always a good one. Up in Canada, Ben, we call that a hockey stick graph. It's a good one there. So, but yeah, you're seeing that all the time, and it's making such a big difference. And you're seeing the more technology that you're using in your business to make it easier, the more profitable you're getting. And integration matters. Most of the roofers are connecting the dots now. So 2/3 of CRM users say their software integrates with accounting or billing tools, while 60% have that hooked up to their estimation and proposal software. So like we were saying, less headaches, less double entry, being more efficient, saving those 5 to 10 hours that we're saying there. And that's huge. And when we were talking about before, making sure whether or not Roofr is the tool for you or some other tools are the one for you out there, making sure that you are getting the most out of it for that. So to, like Pete said, matching your process to the tool, not the tool to your process, or vice versa. Tool to your process, not your process to the tool. So you want to make sure that everything's dialed in there properly. And you can see here, like in the 60 percentile on the top 3 there, making sure that these all flow within it. And that's important. You don't want to be wasting time by using one tool and jump into another. And then having, when you're, the thing I see all the time is companies trying to train your new hires on 4 freaking different tools that are completely disjointed. When you're looking to hire, and Pete always talks about, like, the best hires probably aren't from the roofing industry. They might be from Chick-fil-A. They might be from a car dealership or your favorite sushi restaurant. That way you want to be able to use their customer service and get them ramped quicker. Because if they're ramped quicker, they're going to make money faster and be happier. They're going to make you money faster and you're going to be happy. And you're going to be able to repeat that process. So what's the replicability of hiring process and training and everything? And if you don't have it all in together and you have it disjointed, it's going to be a much harder thing to follow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find this graph really interesting because I would be very interested to revisit this graph 2 or 3 years from now.
Yeah.
Because I think traditionally the way we built CRMs was through integrations. That's how it was essentially a hub foundational product that had a ton of integrations attached to it to make it more robust, to make it function the way we wanted to. And I think the tide is changing a bit, right? Like I see things here like estimation software, job tracking, email and calendar tools. Like all these things are being absorbed in as part of the overall platform now. And I would expect that outside of potentially the first accounting and billing software, the rest of these things drastically reducing in the number of people using integrations to do them. And I think that's a change in the market as a whole. I think that these all-in-one solutions or, operating systems that do the majority of this stuff will start to emerge, similar to like what we're doing here at Roofr, to where I would say 2 years from now, this graph would look very, very different.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What time are you wasting on integrations instead of saving on integrations? Yeah. We'll start to see that there. And Pete, this is your favorite topic.
Yeah, and Ben's too. He just brought this up, right? Speed to lead. And I think this is a really interesting one, right? Like how much is your technology helping your speed to lead? And obviously, like you talked about it earlier, Ben, how, leveraging tech is obviously improving that process considerably. And you see here, it's a matter of days quicker that I'm able to close based on the tech involved versus the ones that are not using tech.
Have you ever heard someone say they love buying a car? Now, the car market is changing in the same way. And it's because it's such an arduous, difficult process, and they almost force it that way. You might spend an entire day at a dealership when you're just like, no, you have a price. I agreed to the price. Just get the paperwork done. Let me drive home. But they want to upsell you all these things. And it's just this complex process that everybody kind of naturally hates. So we can buy anything, pretty much anything on the internet nowadays. And if I contact a company and the process is difficult and weird and hard, I'm just like, I'm not buying it, man. It's just maybe 30 years ago that was normal, but I'm not doing that anymore. If there's another company who makes it easier, the price is transparent, they have a reason for their price, the reviews are good, I'm going to purchase that thing faster than anyone else in the market. And again, that is your business. Like this is the business, guys. Sales, marketing, and converting clients from potential customers to real customers is how we make money. The construction and labor side is essentially already built for us. We just need to feed that through that conveyor belt line, make it fast, and then repeat. So if I were to talk to a company who's just starting up, like first conversations, I'd say, guys, the faster you can get to customers and the more pleasant you can treat them and the easier you can make the experience, the more sales you'll have, period. That's what you need.
We can talk about those numbers that you always talk about, Pete, like that 40% more likely to close if you're the first person in the door, 7 times more likely to win a job if you answer them in the first hour of their inquiry. But instead of talking about this, when you guys are done with this, go 2 masterclasses back to what Pete was talking about with our call with Amanda. And Amanda was using the instant estimator. And if you saw me feverishly shuffling through my papers, it's because I remember I wrote this down and I wanted the actual numbers. She was closing leads 12.67 days faster that were sourced from the instant estimator than that were not. She was also closing them at $14,000 higher on average for, no, that's a lie, 21K versus 14K was how much she was selling them on. So they're hiring her at a higher amount as well. So her average deal size increased. So you can see it in the data. And that's just one person using an instant estimator. Ben sees it. All these other ones see it as well. And it's changing. And people want things quicker. And I have a line that I say in all my demos is we know that most roofing homeowners looking for roofers are not planning ahead. Something bad just happened. They got a leak. They got missing shingles or whatever. So they're calling you at a time of urgency.
Yeah.
Do yourselves a favor, and do them the courtesy of matching their urgency with your urgency. If you are not kind of being urgent back to them in a professional and educational manner, they're going to move on because they're not just calling you. They're calling 3 other roofers. Pete, you talked about that time you called a plumber and you ended up going with the first guy who answered the phone because just nobody was answering. So
it was literally sense of urgency. He was the only one that showed any sense of urgency to get back to me and to, to show any sense of urgency about doing the job itself. And so he won, and actually twice. I had 2 contractors come do work on my house, another one also a plumbing issue, but it was the same idea. It was like, one guy said, yeah, I'll get back to you with a price. A week later, still hadn't heard from him. Another guy came and said, I can be here this weekend to do it. I'll come on Saturday and do it. And, that's who won the job. You know what I mean? Like, let's just get it done. Right. So, and it's, like you said, the match, obviously I have an issue that I need taken care of. You match my sense of urgency, like you're going to get the job, even if you're not you might not be the lowest price. And I don't necessarily care. At that point, I am in a situation where I need this done, right? I'm willing to pay to get it finished, in a timely manner. So, if you can match that sense of urgency, you're going to win out. Like Nic said, 40% of the time you're winning if you're the first person in the door.
Yeah, you're paying for experience. Like we said earlier, right? Like that experience of getting your urgency helped and attended to in a timely manner is you're going to pay that extra buck because then you don't have to think about it. Like if you have an issue, I bought this place. It's a condo corp. And as soon as I got in, they were like, hey, we're just doing a mold check. Would you want to volunteer for it? I was like, yeah, sure. You're going to patch it up after? They said, yeah. I had a hole in my ceiling for 2 years. And every time I message them, I'm like, I'm a contractor. I'm just going to patch it up. They're like, no, we need to wait back for the test results and all that stuff. And finally, I was just like, guys, I'm done with this. I just patched it up. And they came back and they're like, we're going to take a look and open. I'm like, you're not touching anything in the house again. Like you did not match my urgency with urgency. I went and thankfully I could do it myself, but I would have hired someone to get that done because I don't want to see like a tuck tape line on my wall. Like it just not going to happen anymore. So it's a big, big difference that you can help somebody out and win those jobs just by matching urgency. Average time to closing roofing jobs. And this is another thing too. Like we talk about the car dealership world, we're talking about all that stuff. You're seeing that they're not just working harder, but they're working faster with everything. So 65.8% of high-tech roofing businesses close jobs in under a week. 27.6 close them up in less than 3 days. And with this, the speed to lead it's super important, but speed equals satisfaction here. And it gives you a serious edge there. You do not want to leave that stuff out. So it just ties to everything else that you see there. Less than a week, 38.2% of them closing. And less than when you see that big drop, that 27.8 with people that are low tech. People don't want to spend months shopping around when they need something done. So it just goes to what we're talking about. The faster you get to them, the faster you solve their problems, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, I'd also say Yeah, speed. I would say 3 days is like we try to schedule appointments in less than 3 days to make sure and get somebody within 72 hours because that's the highest propensity of like I need something right now. And if you can do that time and time and time again with your process, two things: do you answer your phone yourself, or who's answering your phones? I have a personal assistant from the Philippines who's been with us for 5 years. Second thing, I have a 24/7 call answering service going from 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. in the morning. So if somebody calls us at 10 a.m., 10 p.m. with a roof leak, somebody is answering the phone at all times, 24/7, 365. If somebody gets your voicemail, generally they will hang up the phone, data says, and they'll call somebody else. Those are two very low cost, cheap options that you can have so you can actually be ahead of your competition. So don't neglect the phones. That helps speed the lead as well.
The phone thing is so big.
Yeah, dude.
I'm just thinking, I just had like a dream that just came back of me trying to call someone and just getting a call tree every time. And I'm like, I'm never working with your company.
Dude,
I hate call trees. It just reminds me of in Canada, we have like big, like AT&T and stuff like that, but we have two big ones. It's Rogers and Bell. And they are both the worst service ever because they're basically a monopoly. They're smaller ones, but they're just not as good. And anytime you call in, they're like, and now it's like AI voice. So like you have to talk to it, but it never understands you. And just like, it just drives me nuts. So as soon as I hear a call tree from a service-based industry, I'm just like, hang on, we're going to the next one. So we're running out of time here. So I guess we could power through some of these here. So the main benefits of adopting technology. You had Todd Hauser here from Native Sons Roofing that you had the Roofer of the Month there, which talked about how switching to Roofr transformed his business because of the automations he efficiently brought and allowed him to streamline the process, save money, and serve our customers better. This is huge here, right, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you can leverage the technology in the business throughout the process, it's going to make you more efficient. Right. It's going to set you up to run leaner, run more organized, be more streamlined, be more efficient in your communication, be quicker to the customer, like just all around throughout the entire process. You're going to be a much more efficient business. So, and I think, Todd spoke to that pretty heavily in his Roofer of the Month podcast.
And like, what if you could run your 2-man, 3-man company like someone running a 25-man company? If you can let the technology and everybody else be that extra person, that extra legwork and work more efficiently, you're going to be more profitable. You're going to be making more money. You're going to be helping out more customers, and you're going to be able to grow a lot faster than somebody who's bogged down by all the bureaucracy and all the stuff there. So it's a big part about increasing the efficiency there. Obviously, the increased accuracy and profitability is super important, but I think it all starts on that increased efficiency part.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, marketing tactics. This is Ben's favorite stuff.
Hey, yo.
There we go.
Your guys' logos.
That's it.
If they look like this, put an L in the chat, dude.
What is it? If you have a roof in your logo or your name, right, Ben?
Dude, if the company name is your last name and you have a roofing logo that looks like this, just L's.
You're already in trouble, right? And you drive a white truck.
You fall into the perceived value of the 80% of roofers who people don't trust. So you have to stand out, be bold. And that's why I have tigers. My dad called me Tiger when I was a kid. It's part of my DNA. But also the whole reason I started with Roof Tiger as opposed to like Marl Roofing or even Tiger Roofing is I wanted to be way different than the standard whatever I had in my area. And so you have to stand out. You can do that in a number of different ways. But use Facebook, leverage Google, leverage these tools, and make sure your brand stands out in those places, and you'll do just fine with network awareness. People have to be aware of you to hate or love you. That's what they say. Like, what's the saying? All press is good press. That's because you're being pushed to the forefront of people who don't know you knowing you. So I'm not saying be hated. That's not a good thing either. But what I'm saying is people, most of the time, roofing companies, it's not that they have a negative connotation towards the public or the public hates them. It's that nobody knows them.
Yeah.
Nobody knows them. And so you have to be able to risk being hated by people or being like, that guy's weird or goofy or whatever, in order to make progress into people's homes.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing to note with social media nowadays is that the social media platforms, like you said, Facebook, Google, they are the new referral, right?
Yes.
Like they are the new referral platform. So,
Yes.
you want to make sure that you have a presence in all these places because of that reason.
Everyone in this, so we're gonna have to do a part 2 because we got a lot more, and this is good. So we'll get up to the sock giveaway, but I think this is an important slide to kind of start wrapping things up. Number one piece of homework for everybody watching now and later on this is go find Ben Tiger on Facebook and follow him. I'm not trying to plug him so he gets his numbers up so he starts monetizing his account. But the one big thing that Pete's always talked about, and Pete just alluded to there, and Ben alluded to it as well. Look at these big words coming out of my mouth today. I feel so
amalgamate for us, Nick.
Amalgamate all these ideas. I don't even know how to use them now. But the big thing is be that neighborhood roofer. Be that person that everybody thinks about roofing that's there. Ben does that because of his branding, his Tiger, all that stuff too. One thing that Ben's been doing recently, and I'm in love with it, and I also think that you need a show on the Food Channel, is you're going to local restaurants in Peoria, where you're from, talking about them, talking about the experience, talking about your favorite meal, trying it on there, just like your Anthony Bourdain, just going in there and just figuring all that stuff out. A little bit less jujitsu and a little bit less heroin. So it's building that all in. But what you're doing is becoming that neighborhood roofer. So now when people might go to that see you and see that Facebook, they might go to that coffee shop that you're at last week.
Yeah.
And they might just be in there and talking like, oh, I need a roof done. Guess who they're going to refer? Yeah. They're going to refer Ben. So do yourself a favor, everybody. Watch his content, his stuff. Your podcast is not just with people in the roofing industry. It's people local in your town to talk about their wins, their life, their changes, and everything else. And that kind of stuff makes you into that neighborhood roofer that you could repurpose on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all that stuff there. And you build that customer loyalty and you stand out against the competition. It's just like an easy formula that you just need reps at. It just makes a huge, huge difference.
It's a big commitment, guys. You have to start somewhere. I would assume out of the people on this chat, there's a lot of people who are embarrassed or don't want to get on camera. That's the most common thing. People call me monthly and will ask, like, how do you start? What do you do? And I'm just like, turn the camera on and talk. It's very difficult to start putting yourself out there because you will be judged by people you don't know. There's a video that I filmed for Roofr maybe 3 years ago. It's got 1.7 million views because they use it in their advertisements. And from time to time, I'll go into that video when it's shown to me and read the comments because there's like thousands of comments. And the people are just hammering me in some of the things, okay? 5 years ago, I used to be like, man, do I want to be – I was like very particular. Nowadays, I'm like, man, some people are very angry. But there's also some other people that are like, hey, Ben Tiger spotted. This is cool. You just have to lean into the uncomfortable. I'd say that's the one thing that I've done in the past 5 years to set me apart is just everything in these slides. If we dial it down, boil it down, if you're using technology for the first time, if you've never marketed your company, if you've never considered going on Facebook, if you've never considered doing all these things we're suggesting, it's uncomfortable. If you're a business owner, get used to it, bro. Like, dude, I'm talking about the pressure cooker, man. I have had like the first 5 months this year has been just one of the hardest 5 months in my 5 years. But I'm getting pressure cooked, but I'm learning more than ever. So get used to it. And the more you become comfortable with it, the more you'll succeed. Because guess what people do that fail? They quit when it gets hard. So just don't quit. Don't give up on yourself. If it gets hard, guess what? Ben Tiger, your boy, is having just as hard of a time. I'm telling you. So, and please call me if anybody's on here and wants to connect with me and talk offline. I'm always available. I talk to people all the time from Facebook connections. So please reach out.
And Ben's doing it with a colicky baby.
Yeah, dude. Baby don't sleep. The baby don't sleep.
The baby don't sleep.
Dude, he's got tiger blood. The boy's just awake.
Yeah. But that's a big thing is being comfortable with the uncomfortable. Pete, how scared was I when we first started doing these?
Yeah. I mean, and even like this, even getting on this and camera or, Nick, like now you've done it a bunch. I get up on stage, you get up on stage, Ben gets up on stage, right? Like I remember the first couple times doing that. It's like, it's a nerve-wracking, right? You're going to get up there and speak in front of people and it takes a while. I tell people all the time, the people that are speaking for the first time, like it's not something that it's an acquired skill, right? Like it's something that you have to work at, like you said, but you just got to do it. Just turn the camera around and do it. And it's not going to be great in the beginning. Like your first videos are probably going to suck, but guess what? You're just going to get better at it as time goes on, you know? And that's, I think it speaks to anything that like that, you know, presenting and all these things that we do, you know, it just gets smoother as you do it. You get more comfortable with it. And like you said, you start to embrace all of the craziness that goes on outside of it. And, you know, and it makes you better for it.
Guys, I still suck at this masterclass. Pete threatens to fire me every day, but
Jen, not me. Jen does.
I do it. But before we give the sock giveaway, so I know we got still 20 people in there and stuff, but this Mother's Day, 2 days ago, I was putting up this new, my dad does a lot of like carpentry as well with roofing. And so we're putting up these new posts that holds up the dormer in front of the house. It's like nice farm boards that he built. And I was putting it up, and I went to move the forklift, and I turned around, and I heard my dad talking, 61 years old. And I told this to you guys last year that he started doing social media. And all I hear is, it's Mother's Day, and made this for my wife, and this is my son, and we're doing this. And I was like, what the hell is happening? I've never in my life seen him pull out a camera and start filming and talking about him.
Good for him, man.
He's more comfortable with it, putting it onto his socials and stuff like that. And it's awesome to see. And that's it. You gotta suck a little bit and you'll get better, and it gets more comfortable and better each time. So
this is life. We're all in life right now. We are the main characters in our stories, y'all.
Right. No NPC.
We gotta live it.
All right, Jen, who do we got for the sock giveaway?
Sock giveaway.
Yelling at us in the background, being like, you guys
that's like a sock spinner. There we go. There it is.
Oh, Molly Lamb won. Audrey got stolen from her there. So Molly Lamb,
the slow spin.
Bob Barker would be rolling.
I was going to say that looked like something straight off the Price is right over the dollar.
Molly Lamb, we got those socks. We'll reach out and get that all dialed in for you. But thanks so much, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, thank you, Ben, for jumping on. And we will see you all. We'll have to do a part 2 because we still have a ton of stuff to cover on this. But thank you guys for jumping on. Hopefully you got some good stuff out of it. And we will see you next time on the Roofr Masterclass.
We'll crush you guys.
Everybody. Thanks, everyone.